Hi, welcome to our starter video on API management. In this video, we'll break down the key fields you see when working with API management to give you a clear idea of how to configure it. Let's get started. Name defines the unique name for your API management. It should be a unique string within your resource group. Location specifies the Azure region where the API management will be deployed. Tags help organize and categorize your resources. They use key value pairs to label the API management instance. Zones specifies availability zones for redundancy. SKU defines the service capacity and tier, where capacity is the instance count for scaling, and name is the pricing tier, such as developer, basic, or premium. Identity section manages the identity settings for your API management. Type defines the type of managed identity for this resource, such as system-assigned, user-assigned, or none. User-assigned identities configures user-assigned managed identities if the type of the managed identity is chosen as user-assigned. Custom properties is a dictionary for defining additional user-defined properties, such as TLS version or ciphers to be used, or whether HTTP2 is to be enabled or not. Developer portal status determines if the developer portal is enabled or disabled. Disable gateway disables the API gateway for the API management instance. Enable client certificate enables or disables client certificates for authentication. Legacy portal status enables or disables the legacy publisher portal. NAT gateway state configures the NAT gateway, affecting outbound traffic routing. Notification sender email specifies the email address used for notifications. Public IP address ID specifies the resource ID of a public IP linked to the API management. Public network access controls whether the API management instance is accessible from the public internet. Publisher email and publisher name fields specify the email and name of the API management service publisher. Restore indicates if the API management is being restored from a backup. Virtual network type specifies the VNet integration mode, such as external or internal. Additional locations allows you to extend your API management service to other Azure regions. Disable gateway specifies whether the API gateway in this location is to be disabled or not. Location specifies the specific Azure region for this additional location. NAT gateway state configures the NAT gateway state, such as enabled or disabled. Public IP address ID is the resource ID of the public IP to associate with the API management in this region. Zones specifies availability zones for redundancy. SKU defines the service capacity and tier in this additional location, where capacity is the instance count for scaling, and name is the pricing tier, such as developer, basic, or premium. Virtual network configuration specifies the virtual network, which will hold this additional API management instance with subnet resource ID specifying the resource ID of the subnet. API version constraint ensures compatibility by setting a minimum API version for clients. Min API version is the oldest API version that can be used in the API management service. Certificates lets you upload an SSL certificate to your API management instance, which lets API management to connect backend services that require SSL connection. The certificate password specifies the password of the certificate to be uploaded. Encoded certificate is certificate data in base 64 encoded type. Store name is the certificate store name. Expiry is the expiration date of the certificate. Subject is the subject name of the certificate. And thumbprint is the unique identifier for the certificate. Configuration API sets legacy API behavior, where legacy API controls compatibility with legacy version 1 to v1 APIs. Hostname configurations manage custom domains and SSL settings for your APIs, where you can choose specific SSL certificate for your hostname from different sources, such as a key vault, or by directly uploading it here. Initially, the certificate details for this hostname should be provided similar to above certificate section. Hostname is the custom domain name. Identity client ID is ID of the identity, used to access certificates from Key Vault. Key Vault ID is URL to the Key Vault secret, containing the SSL certificate. The uploaded secret in the Key Vault should be of type application XPKCES12E type. Negotiate client certificate enables or disables client certificate negotiation. Type is the type of the host name, such as proxy or portal. Private endpoint connections manages private links to the API management instance. Virtual network configuration specifies the virtual network, which will hold this API management instance with subnet resource ID, specifying the resource ID of the subnet. With that, we are done with the fundamental properties of this resource. If you don't want to configure your resource from scratch, you can choose one of the Clofi draft resources, where the fields are populated for you in advance, and the chosen options are explained in detail for your reference. In addition, you have the opportunity to discover the usage of this resource within different cloud architectures. Clofi also generates the infrastructure as code automatically in Terraform Bicep and ARM formats to save you time from tedious work.